King of Limbs. Hey guys, what the fuck's up, guys? My name's Emmanuel342, and welcome to, these are kind of stinky. Not stinky, they just have, very medicine. I mean, it's not even medicine, it's fucking melatonin. Just it has an odor. Welcome to, the bad one, the King of Limbs. This album isn't actually bad. It's not. But I'm just gonna say it. I think it's Radiohead's worst album. Yes, even worse than Pablo Honey. Up to this point, Radiohead has evolved and grown their sound over the 7 previous albums. The King of Limbs doesn't feel like it does much for the Radiohead sound. I'm not saying every Radiohead album has to be a huge leap in their sound and a groundbreaking album in rock music. I'm not saying that. But the appeal to Radiohead's music is how every album plays into their evolution. Every album. Except The King of Limbs. They've only released 1 album since then. Limbs is turning 10 years old this year. It doesn't feel like this album will have any real significance in the future of Radiohead. It's a bit disappointing for this band coming off of In Rainbows 4 years prior, which is an amazing album. I love Radiohead for their refreshing sound. They don't feel like an old band, even though they've been making music for 28 years. Their following album, A Moon-Shaped Pool, is a great album that feels important and will be remembered. Quick side note, I've noticed a lot of bands from the, 80s, 90s era will have like an album in the early 2010s that is less than stellar, then to have a slight return to form in 2016. Metallica had Lulu in 2011, and then Hardwired in 2016. Red Hot Chili Peppers had I'm With You in 2011, and then The Getaway in 2016. It's not like that matters, it's just a coincidence that I've noticed. I will say, I don't think this album is bad. It's just rather mediocre. None of the songs really stood out to me. I think every track on this album is good, just not much more than that. There's one clear distinction between this album and every other Radiohead album, and that is this album's reliance on loops. This album is very loop heavy. I personally don't care for it all that much. The loops are cool and start off sounding really good, but by the end of the song you kind of get sick of it. Each song is good and even has a few promising moments. Those moments never lead anywhere exciting and interesting though. That's one of my biggest issues with this album. It's way too, safe. Not in the way that the album doesn't reach new highs of music like every other Radiohead album does, but I mean, the songs don't really go anywhere. None of the songs go or do anything all that interesting. And the loops that the album is so built around makes it worse, because the songs are so just repetitive. The loops are usually good, but it's just the same thing for 4 minutes, with very little to no change. My hand is really shaky, sorry. One thing that works in the loop concept's favor is the album's length. This is Radiohead's shortest album, coming in at 8 tracks and 37 minutes. I prefer the longer albums. They feel more significant, like it's a journey to listen to those albums. This album doesn't exactly feel like an experience to listen to, and this album feels more so like a collection of songs. Not like Amnesiac being Kid A leftovers, or Hail to the Thief feeling disjointed and incoherent. These songs feel like they belong on the same album. They sound good together, but that's it. There really isn't anything much more to them. They just kind of sound good. The opener, Bloom, starts off with these really cool synths. These synths are taken over by the sequenced drums. I mean, I like the song a lot actually, but I would have preferred to hear more of the intro melody. The song, and really I guess the whole album, is just kind of feel-good music. Not to say if you delve deeper, the album becomes less enjoyable. It's just kind of a straightforward song that simply sounds good. I will say the song sounds awesome live, though I sadly have not got to see Radiohead yet. The drums I do like in the studio recording, but in a live setting, they are booming and overpowering. I still feel the repetitiveness of these tracks is a problem, and even if you turn your brain off while listening to these songs, yeah, it's still very noticeable. The next track, Morning, Mr. Magpie, I feel pretty much the same on. I like this track a decent amount. I like the melody and the leading drums, but the song is, again, way too repetitive. It's another feel-good song, but it's so fucking repetitive. There's no break in the song. Again, I like the song, but after a while, it just gets on my nerves listening to it. The song Feral kinda feels adventurous, which I really like. It has a weird, eerie vibe to it, but I have the same problem. Another goddamn sequence drum beat! Lotus Flower finally breaks up the pace with another sequence drum beat. This time, slower. Actually, this is a pretty good track that feels different. It's a nice, slower, mellow track. The pace of the previous songs felt rushed, like they were trying to get somewhere, even though that somewhere is just nowhere. This track takes its time, and it does actually change up a bit, and it sounds really nice. Codex is the album's piano ballad. Another really good change of pace, bringing the album to an even slower point than Lotus Flower. This is a good ballad. I wouldn't say it's anything special though. Radiohead is amazing at making heart-wrenching, painful ballads, and Codex is not really one of them. I mean, it's something, but definitely a weaker entry among the ballads. Even in terms of the softer ballads that don't overwhelm you with emotion. Radiohead has proved that they are not a dated band. Even this album feels new and sometimes exciting. Their last album, In Rainbows, had 3 amazing ballads: Nude, Reckoner, and Videotape. But compare those to Codex, this song feels underwhelming. It doesn't have the same impact. Not that long ago, I showed the song Nude to 2 of my friends. Yes, I have friends. Crazy, I know. And the song definitely had an impact for them listening to it for the first time. And when I heard it for the first time, it really impacted me. But I guess that's the issue with this album. It doesn't really affect you all that much. There's not much of a point in going back to it. It's certainly enjoyable to listen to, but it left me rather dissatisfied and wanting more. Not of this album, wanting better stuff to listen to. It's not a bad album. It's a good album. Is it the worst Radiohead album though? Yes, I think it is. I already said that, but yes. At least with Pablo Honey, the other album people point to when talk about the worst Radiohead album, that album was the first Radiohead album. They had only to go up from there. That album feels very important to the growth of Radiohead, but this album feels not important at all. Plus, Pablo Honey has a few genuinely good songs, like You, Blowout, and even Creep. Those songs I will genuinely go out of my way to listen to. Well, maybe not Creep, because I've heard that song so many fucking times, but I won't lie, it's still a good song. None of the tracks off this album I will go out of my way to listen to them. I still think they're good, but it's not that good. The album is just rather average. I'm going to give Radiohead's The King of Limbs a 6 out of 10. Oh, it looks like someone's home. Maybe it's my dad. He went to go get cigarettes like 15 years ago. He never came back. I probably won't listen to this album ever again. I'm kidding. I think Limbs still deserves to be appreciated. Maybe not as much as other albums, but it still does. Honestly, it's quite impressive that a band with 9 albums doesn't have a bad album. I know it's my personal opinion, but many other people agree that even their worst albums are still good. Most bands that have this many albums will have at least like one bad album, but Radiohead doesn't, at least in my opinion. Again, I still think this album is worth listening to. But if you aren't a Radiohead fan, you're probably not going to get much enjoyment out of it. This has been Radiohead's, The King of... Fuck off! This has been, Radiohead's The King of Limbs.